All right, let's talk about something tricky. The friend zone. We've all heard of it, and hey, maybe some of us have even paid a visit. It's that super confusing, frustrating place where feelings just don't seem to line up. But here's the thing. Once you understand the psychology behind it, you can actually figure out how to navigate it.
Does this sound familiar? You're putting in all the work. You're their rock, their 2 a.m. phone call, their biggest cheerleader. But the second you hint at something more, it's like hitting a brick wall. And man, that dynamic can seriously mess with your head, can't it? It makes you question everything.
That feeling of frustration is absolutely real. But listen, you are not stuck there. And that's what this is all about. We're going to dig into the why this whole thing even happens. Then we'll get into the unspoken signals. And most importantly, what you can actually do about it.
Okay, first things first. What even is the friend zone? You know, at its core, it's not some evil, malicious trap someone sets for you. It really just boils down to one simple thing: a total mismatch in expectations.
That's really it. One person is thinking, this is my best friend in the whole world, while the other is over there thinking, this could be the one. And that huge gap between those two mindsets, that's where all the confusion and heartache starts to brew.
So now let's get into the psychology of it all. Why does this dynamic get its hooks in so deep, and why can it be so hard to break free from? Well, it turns out there are a couple of really powerful psychological forces at play.
First up is what's known as the investment trap. This is that sneaky, mistaken belief that if you just do enough, if you listen more, help more, and just give more, you'll eventually rack up enough relationship points to earn their affection. But that is a fundamental misunderstanding of how attraction actually works.
And this quote just hits the nail on the head. Real, healthy attraction is built on mutual desire, not on a sense of obligation. It's not a transaction where you do favors in exchange for romance. In fact, when the giving becomes too one-sided, it can actually push the other person away.
The other piece of the puzzle is something called avoidant reinforcement. Basically, the other person enjoys your attention, so they give you these little breadcrumbs of warmth and connection. It's just enough to keep your hope alive, but they never, ever actually commit. It creates this crazy making cycle that keeps you hooked.
Okay, so we've got the psychology down, but how do you spot this in the real world? What are the actual concrete signs that you should be looking out for?
Some of the signs are pretty much screaming at you, right? You try to make a romantic gesture and they just laugh it off. Ouch. Or the classic, they treat you like their personal therapist for all their other crushes. Or maybe you only hear from them when they need something. In those cases, the platonic line is being drawn pretty thick.
But you know, it's not always that obvious. Sometimes the most powerful signals are hidden in plain sight, just in simple everyday language. A single word can define the entire dynamic, often without you even realizing it. And it's not always a conscious manipulation, but these words, they reveal a lot about where you stand. The first word is busy. When you hear it over and over, you think, okay, they have a lot on their plate. But here's the hard truth. Busy is very rarely about a lack of time. It's about priority. Think about it. When someone is truly interested, they find the time. Busy is often just a polite way to create distance. And this unpredictability is the key. It's the long periods of silence followed by a sudden burst of attention. This works on the exact same psychological principle as a slot machine. It's that random reward that becomes addictive, keeping you chasing that next small payout of their attention.
Next up, the word maybe. Oh, maybe is a killer. You ask them out and they say, maybe. It sounds like hope, doesn't it? But what maybe really does is put you in a holding pattern. It keeps you emotionally available, just waiting, while they keep all their options open without ever having to commit to you.
This one can feel sharp. The word friend. When someone says, you're such a good friend, especially in a context where romance is on the table, it's often more than a compliment. It's a label. It's a way of putting you in a very specific box, a box that's valued for comfort and support, but not necessarily for desire.
And finally, we have soon. Let's hang out soon. It sounds like a promise, but it's often an empty one. Soon is a masterful stall tactic. It creates the illusion of future plans, maintaining your interest without them ever having to actually deliver. It's a future that never seems to arrive.
Okay, recognizing these signals is so crucial because this dynamic is not harmless. Not at all. Staying stuck in that kind of uncertainty, in that limbo, takes a really significant toll on your emotional well-being.
I mean, it leads to constant frustration, it damages your self-worth, and it completely drains your energy.
And maybe worst of all, while you're so focused on this one-sided situation, you're closing yourself off to the possibility of finding someone who would reciprocate your feelings right from the start.
So this brings us to the most important part of all. What can you actually do about it? How do you break this cycle and reclaim your control and your self-worth?
Well, this lays out a really clear, empowering path forward. It starts with being honest with yourself about what you truly want. Then you have to set and enforce boundaries to protect your energy. Next, you communicate with clarity. One direct conversation can save you months of guessing. And finally, you have to anchor all of it in your own self-worth.
And this quote right here is really the essential mindset shift. You don't escape by loving harder. You escape by stepping out. The solution isn't to give more of yourself. It's to value yourself enough to walk away from a dynamic that doesn't serve you. Real connection has to flow both ways.
And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. Are you chasing someone else's validation, or are you busy building your own? Because the power to change this dynamic doesn't come from getting someone else to finally see your worth. It comes from you recognizing it first.